Hello, everyone. It's Donelle McAdams, and I'm here for Odd Monday. And today we are going to show you Sampler Template Set number 1. Now, you may have purchased this and you just haven't gotten it out to use it. You may have found that some of the templates don't seem to make sense to you or whatever. And there's no way I can show you everything today, but I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what these 6 templates can do for you. So I've got them setting here in my template rack so that I know which ones I'm going to pull out, because obviously I've got a lot more templates than this. I will also be using embroidery perfection tape. You'll see that a little bit later. I'm going to be using my Choco pen, and my Choco pen fits down into the grooves of my crosshair ruler. And the crosshair ruler is what we use to line things up. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to move some of these things out of the way, and you will see how much fun you can have with just even this very few amount of templates. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure I've got the right needle in, which I do because I've already replaced and put in the 90 top stitch needle, and that allows the thread to flow through smoothly. And for beginners, I recommend that you use 100% polyester thread. So I'm just going to take my thread, it's already threaded through that needle, and I'm going to put it down through the hole of that foot. Now this is a ruler work foot, and a ruler work foot is a foot that has a high wall and a thick wall so that we can push our templates up against it and it won't bend it or anything. And there are feet that fit all your machines. Now, the machine I'm using today happens to have a ruler work foot that comes with it. So I'm going to be using that one because it's designed for this particular machine. But if your machine company does not make a foot for your machine, we have one that will work. So let's see if I can get that. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my settings, and this particular machine has a ruler work setting. And a ruler work setting just makes sure that everything is right for doing ruler work. And you'll notice when I put my foot down, my fabric still glides underneath there, okay? Now, if you're doing this on a machine that does not have a ruler work setting, then what you're going to simply do is drop the feed teeth and leave it set on a straight stitch. And you may have a few other things that you need to set. And I would encourage everyone to sign up for our free class, and yes, I said free, on the university. So Study has a university, and it's called Let's Get Started. And it'll talk about all of the feet and all of the settings and all of that kind of stuff. If I did that today, we'd never get through any of the templates. So let's get started. In this case, it's the same thing. We're going to take this marker and mark right in those openings. And I need to know where my dead center is. So I'm just going to use the edge of that crosshair ruler to make that connection. So the first template that I'm going to use is just simply well, I shouldn't say simply because it does a lot of things, but it's a template that will rotate on a pen. So there's a little hole right there. I have simply a thumbtack. The thumbtacks come with the templates. And rather than punching it through and making a hole in my fabric, I have taken my thumbtack and I laid it down so the point was up. The sticky side of the tape is down. And so now when I put it through there in the middle, I'm going to be able to just tape that right in place. so I don't have to put a hole in my fabric. So that's what that RNK tape was for. There's probably other things you can use. I've tried painter's tape. That didn't stick very well. I've tried washi tape. That didn't stick very well. I just found that this, being a sewing purpose and embroidery, works very well because it doesn't leave any residue. And when I pull this up, I'll be able to put it back down and use it again later if I need to. So now we've got that hole right there, and there's an A and a B, and I'm going to take and set that right on top. I'm going to line up here at the top, and I'm going to come right into that A, and there's a little divot there. So once I've got that in place, I'm going to pull my bobbin thread up by lowering my needle and raising it. And then when I pull that out, I might need some tweezers to get a hold of that to pull that bobbin thread up also. So I'm going to now stitch with the edge of my foot, always touching my template. So I'm just going around the edge. Now, you may have a machine that has a stitch regulator on it. If so, you can use that. Mine does not. So what I do is I take my machine speed and put it at half speed. And then I also take my foot pedal, which is on the floor, and turn it around so all I'm touching is the back of it. That's the high side of it. And then that way I can floor it. It's only going to go medium speed because that's what I set it for. So I can then get used to how this is going to work. Now, don't expect to be a perfect person the first time. Give yourself a little bit of time to practice. Now, when I rotated that, I put that line on the next drawn line. And I'm just going to go ahead, go around that shape and stop at B. Move it again. Stop at B. Move it again. And you'll notice I have these white spaces here. Those are on the bottom of the template, and that's what's called stable tape. And that stable tape is what grabs your fabric so that when you move your hands, it moves with you. And you'll notice so far, I really haven't even rotated my fabric, just my template. Now you can rotate your fabric if you got a small enough piece. There's no reason you can't. Now I've got one more rotation here, and that will complete this design. So what I'm going to do when I get back to the beginning, which is right there, I'm going to raise that needle up. I'm going to raise the foot up, and I'm going to come out over my template and then back to that beginning spot, put the foot down, and then get right in there so I can visually see to raise that bobbin thread. So I put the needle down, and now when I pull this up, that's my bobbin thread. Now I left purple in the bobbin because I wanted you to be able to tell the difference between the bobbin thread and the top thread when I'm working with this. Now when I take this off, I've got my 2 threads I started with and my 2 threads that I ended with. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the way so I don't stab myself with that thumbtack. And I'm going to get what's called a side threading needle. And that just means it threads on the side. So I'm going to pull those threads out, clip them off because I sure don't need it that long. And I'm going to pull this around and pull the tail through the loop. And then I'm going to take the point and go through the loop and right back in where they came out. And I'm going to pull it down to about 1/4 of an inch my knot's that far away. So it's about 1/4 of an inch. And the reason I do that is I want to have some room to be able to pull that in. So I've threaded my needle because it's a side threader. And I'm going to take that back in, bury it. And when I pull this through, I'm going to do it slowly so you can see it happen. There's my knot until I pull it in. And now it's buried in there, and I can just cut off these tails, and you can't really tell where I started and where I stopped. Now, I'm not going to show that again, but if you need to see it, you can always rewind this video. But you can see that we were able to do that design. Now, one of the rulers that's kind of the very basic ruler that we have, it doesn't come in the sampler set, but it does come by itself or in a package if you get the kit. And this is just what we call the 12-inch arc. It has a straight side here and an arc side here. And I'm going to show you how we can use this 12-inch arc to echo this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the straight edge and put it right on the straight edge there. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to set my foot so it's against that ruler, but it's on that, it's going to go down in that line that was drawn. So now when I pull up that bobbin thread, I'm holding on to this ruler, put that back down, I'm going to be able to stitch. And when the front edge of this foot touches this stitching, I'll stop. When that stops, I can push this against that right on top of that line again, and I'll stitch right over to that line. Now I'm going to reposition this so that you can see it a little bit better. And each time I have a way to know where I'm supposed to be. This is on this line, this edge touches that, or the needle lands in the line. And you can see again, I don't have to do a lot of turning of my fabric, but you could if that's more comfortable to you, because I can see everywhere I'm going here. That one might be a bit tricky. Now, another tool that I forgot to lay out, and I don't even know if I've got one handy here. Let me see. I'm sure I do. And that's what's called a spacing gauge. So let me get that and show you, because I'm going to need it here when I get back to where I started. So this is what's called a spacing gauge. So I'm going to turn this so you can see what we're going to be doing. Now, when I come back, I want to meet that exactly. So rather than guessing, I have this spacing gauge that allows me to measure. So I want to land right there. So I'm just going to line that up. So I land right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut those threads, but you would normally be tying them like I did before. So you can see how I echoed that by using a straight edge. You could echo this out a 1/2 inch. Instead of putting the edge on this line, you would move it out to the first line there. And then you would stitch from there down and echo a 1/4 of an, or an 8, or excuse me, a 1/2 inch, which is double what we did the first time. So I'll just go ahead and do part of that. So I'm putting that down in that line. And when I come down here, I have to stop a 1/4 of an inch before so that I don't end up going too close. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stitch out to that line. So you can see how I am echoing that this time so that it's a 1/2 inch from the last one that I did. So there are a lot of things that you can do with this straight edge and other straight edges also. So that's just one of the things that you can do with that particular template. So let's get a line drawn here with our chalk. And we're going to do what is called the clamshell or scallop template. And there's a line right on that template. You can see it when I move it up. And I'm lining it up right with the line I drew. So I'm going to come in here, raise that bobbin thread up. And then all I'm going to do is follow along. Started to move. When I get to the end, all I need to do is shift to the ruler over. And this time I'm going to stop at the top of a hill because I'm going to show you how to do those clamshells. So what I would do, I was right there. I would move it up so it's in the bottom again and place this so that that line is right in line with the stitching I did previously. And that way, when it comes down and lands, it touches that stitching. I want to stop at the top again. I'm going to move up, come back the other way. So you can see how we could just keep doing row after row after row of that so that you could have that as an all-over pattern to quilt whatever you wanted to quilt. Now the other side is just larger. And I'll just pretend I've got a line going across here. When I get to there, I'll line that up. And if I wanted to do the same type of thing with these big scallops, you can see I've got a line that comes down through the center there. That line lines up with what I just stitched. So when I come down, I'll touch that and go back across this way. And you can just keep going and going with that. Now I'm going to use the rest of this that I didn't finish doing the clamshells And I'm going to turn this 180 degrees, and I'm going to show you how to make a little border. So I'm going to line up that line that I've been referencing so much. I'm going to skip pulling up that bobbin thread. And that's a border that's actually called egg and dart. And you can imagine you could do it with the same thing with the big one. It would just be a whole lot larger. But that's egg and dart. Now, a fun thing to do with this, and I'm going to use the big one to show you, is to do something that what we commonly call ribbon candy. Let's get us a good long line here. So I'm going to start here on the end. And again, I'm just going to start without pulling up my bobbin thread. And like I said, if I set out to show you or even to write a book that shows all you can do with these templates, oh my gosh, there's so many things. I have a class called From Beginner to Quilt, and it truly is from being a beginner to ending up with a 12-patch quilt that has a big medallion in the center. And that has been a very good class for people who are just getting started. It only uses the 7 templates I'm using today, the 6 from the sampler set and the straight 12-inch arc. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stitch over just 1/4 of an inch. Okay, you can see lines here. So I'm lining that up with my needle, and I'm just going to stitch over to the 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to go back, and it will be offset. So if you remember what ribbon candy, if you ever have had that, where it looks like it's usually striped in color and then wavy like this. And this just creates a very pretty border. Now when I get down here one more time, I'm almost off my fabric. So I'm going to come straight across here, and then from there go 1/4 of an inch. Uh-oh, my batting's stuck down there. I did fail to mention that I use what's called a glider, and this also comes from Sew Steady, and that allows my fabric to just move very, very smoothly, or allows my fabric to move smoothly across the bed of my sewing machine. I also have a nice big Sew Steady table underneath here so that, oh, my thread broke. So that I have a nice big area to move flat. Now there's a lot of ways that you can correct this. You have to remember my bobbin thread is not broke. I'm just threading my needle right now. I always put this back underneath. Let's see where it broke. So I came down here and it must have broke right there. Well, that's a good place to break, because what I'll do is I will just stitch up a little bit and back to secure that thread. But when you first start with this, don't worry about how close or far away your stitches are from each other. Concentrate on following your template, because that's what's going to be the hardest thing to get used to. And all of a sudden you're going to look at your stitches and say, oh, they look really good. But you can see how I created this, what I call ribbon candy, just by simply moving this over a 1/4 of an inch either way. You can see the 1/4 of an inch there. Let's see what else we got here we can play with. Something such as our circle. So I'm going to do several different things with our circle. So let's just go ahead and draw our crosshair grid again. You don't have to make this line super, super dark. It just needs to be dark enough for you to see it. And again, I have emptied the chalk out of this and I refilled it with chalk that irons off. So it's the iron off chalk from Pounce. So I'm going to come to the center and I'm going to bring that bobbin thread up. Put it back down, get it right in the middle. And then I'm going to push this template up so that line is right on this line. There's a line in the back that's lined up, and my foot is touching my template. Come right back to that same spot, and we're going to pull this forward. Line it up here. Look behind to see that it's lined up there. I'm going to move it out to the side. And I'm going to move this one out to the side. Now, when I get over here to the edge, I'm just going to stop and cut those threads off. Don't want my template to move, because I've stitched over them enough. They don't, oops, they are not coming out there in the center. So this is a needle slot, so I can just slide that out there without breaking my thread. But I just wanted you to see what it looks like with 4. And now I'm going to slide that back in, and this time I'm going to use these diagonals to line up. Got to put my foot down. And we'll put 4 more circles in. And if you use your templates and all of those nice lines, it really makes it easy to keep everything lined up. I'm going to come down here, line up that way. And again, I couldn't begin to do this without that staple tape that's holding my fabric so that when I push down on it, it moves freely. So again, I'm just going to do a couple stitches there in the center and cut my thread. I can go to the back and then cut it off. But you can see how we have made a kind of a snowball effect with that template. Now I'm going to take and draw a straight line, and we're going to work vertically up that line. So I'm going to line this up and that up, come down here. I'm not pulling my thread up this time. I'm just going to stitch. And if I wanted to make what I call my bubble border, I would either have to stop right here and tie these threads and move it up, or since it's a template, I can stitch right back to the top. So that got stitched twice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate sides. So this one got stitched twice on the left. The next one, I'm going to stitch it twice on the right. So I'll go to the right first. And the reason for that is our eyes are very forgiving. If I did all of it on that side heavy, it would look heavy. But if I alternate it, our eyes balance that out. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to stop down here and I'm going to pull this template in until the acrylic touches what I've stitched. And I'm going to come about 3/4 up and back, pull it in again, come about halfway up and back, and one more time. I can then line it up again and do another one. This one I would most likely pull it in this way. And it just gives a little bit of a flair, or a frou-frou, whatever you want to call it, to your template work. So you can see how that adds to what we're doing there. Now this is a 2-inch, and that's our circle, and our scallop template was a 3-inch. So if you for some reason wanted a 2-inch scallop, you could just have your line drawn and just do half and stop. Move it over and do half and stop. So instead of from start to finish being 3 inches, it's now 2 inches. And if you wanted to do the scallops, that's the way you would do it. If you wanted to do the clamshell, you see that's lined up there. Uh-oh. Every time I get real close to that, that batting gets stuck. Move it over. So just learning how you can play with your templates will give you a lot of opportunity to fit into the area you need to fit in. You can see that's the 2-inch and that's the 3-inch. Quite a bit of difference in size. So what's it measuring? It's measuring from here to here, which means from there to there is half the distance. So this is 1 inch tall here by 2 inches wide. I hope this is helping you understand why template quilting can be so much fun. There's so many things that you can do with it. Let's see here. Let's get this one and draw another design with our crosshair square here. I know this one doesn't go very big, so I'm not going to have to draw those out too far. We have I don't know, I think it's 700 templates. So there's so many different things you can do. But we certainly encourage you to start with this set. This happens to be called the Spinifex 4. And I'm lining up here and in the back. And the reason I encourage you to start with this set, it has such a variety of things that you can do with it. And if you sign up for that class from beginner to quilt, you'll see all the different things you can do. Now I'm going to do just the 4 of these so that you can see that it pretty much looks kind of just like a outdoor spinner. And then I'll add the other 8 in. So I'm going to leave that needle down and raise the foot so that you can see what I've got there. Now I'll put it back in, put that foot back down, and we'll do the other. Wow. I don't know what that caught on. It doesn't matter whether you go left or right first. So there's a pretty little daisy flower that you can make with that particular template. Now I've done a border with this one. I'll show you real quickly here. And this is also something you would learn in a class. We have so many classes. Oops. I guess I thought I was good enough to do it without any line at all, which I'm not. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how you can create a cute little border here. Uh-oh. My machine is one that if the bobbin says it's empty, it won't let you go any further. So let me get another bobbin. I'm going to come down this way. You can see there's a line right across there. I'm going to go up this way, lining that same line up. And I'm going to cut that cut that thread out of there. Notice I'm still holding my template in place. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a joining. So I'm going to come across this way and stop there. Because I can't free motion and I want this to be a border that's all connected. So I just kind of made my own little connector there. And then I'll do one that goes up. And one that comes down. And just like what I did earlier, you can do the same thing with this. You can pull this over so it touches, stitch up and back, pull it in, stitch up and back, pull it in and stitch. I said up and back, but I'm thinking of this being the top. And now I'm going to do that connector again. Flip it around and come down this time. And let's say this is the end. I'm going to go that way. And I'm going to go this way. And the thing that's fun about this is I would have measured this all out so that I ended up being centered in whatever my space was. And that's catching that batting again. You little rascal. Oh, I see what happened. My batting's longer than my backing piece. Oh well, you got the idea there. But you can see how interesting that is. I got that connector there. It's the same. So the space from here to here is the same as the space from there to there. And all of this little stuff you could have done in every single one of those flowers, whatever you want to call them. But that's just something else to give you an idea of what you can do. I think we've pretty well stitched up that piece. So let's get another one here. And I'm going to draw a little 4-inch square. Maybe just 3 inches, just so I save some space. So let's come down here like this. Make my line this way and this way. If we were obviously quilting, we'd have definite spacing. All right, so let's say we got that little square there. And then I want to do a design that goes like this. You've seen it many times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little arc here. This is a 4-inch arc. We have all different sizes of arcs. And I'm going to go ahead and put my template up against there. But again, I have to measure. So from that spot to the edge of the template must be 1/4 inch. So I'm going to put that right there, and I'm going to stitch down to that spot. And just so you can see it, I'm going to go ahead and turn this. I'm going to line that up again and get my 1/4 inch measure. We'll line it up again. And one more time, I want to get right back to where I started. So you can see how you could quilt that and come back this way and measure, assuming like there's another one on this side. And if you had one coming down here, you can see how that works right around that edge. But you got to have that 1/4 inch measure each time to make sure you're in the right place. Pretty cool, huh? So many things that you can do with the different templates. And last but not least is the spiral template. And the spiral template has, again, many, many uses. I have a class in the university that's called One Template Wonder. It's all done with this template, and the design is about 24 inches square. So let's see here. If I put this about right there. That should give us plenty of room to do a couple of things. And again, I need that center. So I'm going to start right there in the center. I'm going to use that spacing gauge a lot. And I'm using this template that has stable tape on this side. And you can put it on the other side so you can flip the template over too. So I'm going to take this template and I'm going to put it like that. And I'm going to stitch out to this line. I'm going to stop right there, rotate my template so it hooks around this now, and I'm going to measure 1/4 of an inch. Let me get you back there a little bit from this spot. So now it will land right back in the middle there. So now we're going to turn this so you can see it. I'm going to line it up on that line and stitch out to this line. And I'll rotate back. Let's cut those threads off. And again, on this one, we measure. I'm going to come over and do this line. All right, so I've got those 4 like that, and I'm going to do these 4 lines with a bigger arc. So rather than being like this, well, it would have been like that. You can see it's lined up there. I'm going to move it so it's going to be, I got to extend my line so that you can see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come that big, and I'm going to get one of my ruler stickers. You've seen them on a couple of those rulers. And I'm going to put it right there. So I know that I want to stitch till it's right there. So this is going to be a bigger one, but it's done the same way. Still need that 1/4 of an inch back here in the middle. You can see that it's bigger there. So when I do this one here, I touch that line. Measure my 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to come down here, touch that line. Turn this around, measure that 1/4 of an inch. And I I've got one more here, and I need a longer line. Now I'm just going to do a couple stitches there so that I can then cut that thread. And you can see what kind of a design I made there just by using a little ruler sticker to mark it so that it made this one bigger than that one. So there's so many different things. We have just probably tip of the iceberg here, because I can tell you we haven't even talked much about borders except that one bubble border that I showed you. And there's a lot of borders that you can do with these templates. So I hope this has kind of encouraged you to get started, or maybe to do a little bit more playing with your templates. And again, I encourage you to take that Let's Get Started class, the free class in the university. It's free to join our university. And then you could jump right on and do the From Beginner to Quilt class, because that is truly a beginner's class. And this is one of the designs that we do. We do a little bit more with it and add to it, but this is kind of one of the designs that we do in that class. So thank you for joining me here on Odd Mondays, and we will see you on the next Odd Monday. Bye now.